The Washington Wizards had an interesting 2010s to say the least. They would welcome in John Wall with the first pick of the 2010 NBA draft, who would quickly become a rising sensation as a six-time All-Star, one-time All-NBA caliber point guard. They would later compliment him with selecting Bradley Beal with the third pick of the 2012 NBA draft, well known as one of the NBA's best scorers today. Unfortunately, the Wizards would only see first and second round playoff appearances and lose John Wall for most of the 2018-19 season and all of the current season after extending him for a 4-year, $170 million contract starting in 2019. With a borderline all-star in Bradley Beal, a guy coming off a torn left Achilles injury making nearly $40 million, and a roster filled with role players, the Wizards should definitely be thinking about their team moving forward, and especially having faith in John Wall's return while seeing how he meshes with Bradley Beal again. Either the Wizards could be in a solid or worried position moving forward, and only time will tell. Hey everyone, DC NBA Junkie here, and without further ado, let's take a look into the future of the Washington Wizards. A big part of the Washington Wizards moving forward, I've already stated it before, but John Wall's return next season. I know a lot of fans are anticipating it and a lot of fans are thinking about it, but at the end of the day, how John Wall comes back from this injury is going to dictate pretty much 60 to 75% of this team moving forward. I'm sorry, it's unfortunate because he's got one of the higher contracts in the league, which kind of puts him in a position where it's going to be hard to trade him, and if you only get like 50 to 75% of John Wall, I don't really think that's going to be much to trade for if you attempt to trade him. Because of his money. So you look at him and it's like, it could be compared to like a Kevin Love contract, a Blake Griffin contract, a player making, or more similarly like a Chris Paul contract, a guy making a ton of money, a good player, but trading him down the line, it's going to be kind of tough, especially if a team, he doesn't really want to bring in all that money and give up a lot for that. So that's kind of the biggest concern. But the good news about John Wall is he's only 28. He's 29 right now. So there's a lot, compared to like Chris Paul, you got a much younger player. So that's something good to think about for John Wall. So that's a good thing. And reportedly, he said that it's reported that he's feeling stronger than ever, which is something that fans should really feel good for if that is the case for John Wall. And at his best, he's definitely, a solid 2010 two-way point guard, a top three point guard in the NBA who can get to the rim with ease, take the contact, finish with contact, and he playmakes on another level. His playmaking was something different. I think a lot of fans keep forgetting how good John Wall was. It's been like 1.5 years in NBA, but really 2 years since we've really seen him, and it just feels like forever, so we always forget about John Wall and how good he was and how talented he was. For instance, in the 2016-17 season, which, by the way, he was an all-star at 26 years old, he would average 23.1 points per game, 10.7 assists per game, 2 steals a game, 54% true shooting percentage, and in that season, he would also, he was just a really solid athlete, averaging 45% from the field. He was just a top 3-point guard in his, at his best, and I don't think there's many others who can do it like him at a two-way, like 6'3", 6'2". So moving forward, definitely for the Wizards, his health is going to be a crucial factor because if you could trade him for something decent if he comes out being a lot, coming back stronger than ever or coming back to what he used to be. But, from Achilles injury, that's something that's really hard to come back from, especially at full health. So that's something definitely that Wizards fans should be looking at moving forward. Another looming topic in the Wizards franchise and the team is trading Bradley Beal. He's one of the biggest questions surrounding the franchise. Even when he signed his 2-year extension on his contract already, there's still like questions as to whether or not he'll be traded. And I think it's kind of interesting how the NBA has really just come to forget who John Wall is. Like, seriously, like, this team, I know they haven't been a very good team. They're one of the worst teams in the league for the past couple of years. But when John Wall was in the league, he was one of the best, most talented players. The Wizards were a playoff team at the very least, and they had some pretty decent playoff runs. So I think personally they just need to wait till next year, despite, the trade rumors just keep popping up, even when he signed his 2-year, $70 million extension last year. Just wait till when Wall's back next year so you kind of evaluate how they play together. Because when they were at, 2016-17 season, John Wall averaged, 22, 23 a game, and Bradley Beal averaged 23 as well, and he was pretty efficient too, 48% from the field, 48% field goal and 40% from the three, which is his best of his whole career. So, just wait off on that. Just let, them come back and see what you're working with, see how good John Wall is coming back. Considering that, Bradley Beal made an even bigger jump this year, averaging basically, 30.5 points per game. It was just insane. And I think this year he should have won an All-Star appearance. I mean, he should have gotten his third appearance. It's just insane. I know that he was on a bad team and he was scoring well, but think of Trae Young. That guy's a fan favorite easily. He didn't even score as much as Bradley Beal did, and his team was just as bad. No, his team was significantly worse. His team is in the bubble playing for a playoff spot. So definitely props to the Washington Wizards for playing pretty well considering their circumstance right now. The team has been, successful in the past, but plenty of nice pieces. They also have plenty of nice, pretty good pieces like Davis Bertans, Shabazz Napier, Thomas Bryant, Rui Hachimura. You can develop some of these guys specifically like Rui Hachimura. Thomas Bryant's still relatively young, and trading other assets on the team who maybe got some solid talent, but could get better, more veteran presence, which I'll get into in the next section here. But moving forward, this team just needs to see how John Wall comes back. It's the biggest thing for this team, and then figure out if you want to move Bradley Beal. But I wouldn't. He's one of the better players in the league. Just work with what you got. He's a really talented player, and that's just something that the Washington Wizards should be looking forward to. Now, notice that I'm not really paying any attention to their playoff NBA season resumption. Just talking about that. Personally, I'm sorry, Wizards fans. It's kind of I think you guys can get into the little playoff matchup versus the 8th seed to play for a spot in the playoffs, but you're playing the Bucks or the Raptors, but probably the Bucks. Yeah, I'm surprised if you guys get 2 games on them. But what they need going forward is this team has got one of the best offense. The weirdest thing about the Wizards is that they have one of the best offenses in the league. They just score like crazy. They have a lot of guys who aren't afraid to shoot the ball, and a result of that is they're one of the best offenses in the league, offensive rating wise. But they have the worst defense in the league. It's just the craziest. You've never seen this. I don't think I've ever seen a team have such a good offense and a terrible defense. This team just is one of the worst teams defensively, and I know that John Wall is a big part of this team defensively, and his defensive win shares are a big part of this team, but they don't have him right now, and that's just kind of a problem. But obviously John Wall there is not going to be the only thing that contributes to their defense. So for this team, they need a defensive. Definitely, I think that they need a 3 or center. I think Rui Hachimura, his first year was pretty impressive. He's an okay scorer, but a really, a nice defender at the 4 or the 3, whatever they decided to play him at. But a center could be really helpful, especially either backing up Thomas Bryant or playing over Thomas Bryant. It depends. And if Thomas Bryant makes a jump, in this offseason or, moving forward, that could help them too. Players around Bradley Beal and John Wall are only going to help them, and it will just suit them better for the future. Players that suit John Wall and Bradley Beal's play styles, I think what's, the problem with, why they haven't had a lot of success, for these past couple of years, the 2010s decade with John Wall and Bradley Beal, is just that they didn't really have a lot of consistent scoring outside of those two. They've had some good players to come out of their team and you'd be okay scorers, but outside of those two, I haven't really seen a guy who has been a consistent scorer for them, and I hope somebody on this team can step up and be that. Maybe you got Shabazz Napier, you keep him and he does pretty good, or Rui Hachimura makes a jump next season. He's only a rookie, so you got to give him a lot of credit for that. And, lastly, another thing, they just need defense. I mean, you can't really explain that. They're the worst defense in the league, okay? Like I said, John Wall's a big part of their defense, but at the end of the day, they just need, I said, the first topic was about defense. That's how much defense they need. They need just defense in general. It doesn't matter how it comes, whether it's on the bench or the starting lineup, they need defense. And, as for Scott Brooks, he's a pretty good offensive coach. I don't know defensively. I mean, with the Thunder, they were a good team. obviously, that was a big part of because of the players, but Scott Brooks was a pretty good coach, playing to suit Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Overall, for this Washington Wizards team, they obviously have a really good offense. Offensively, their players are not afraid to shoot, so that can really help them, especially, when you have Bradley Beal. That man chucks up threes like it's nothing. I think this season he attempted 8 threes a game. That man was not afraid to put up a three. Just because they're not afraid to shoot the ball for sure. But for this team, like I said, they're pretty horrendous defensively, and I know that John Wall can help them coming back with that, but John Wall's recovery is going to be a big part of this team. Development with some of the players, and surrounding them, Bradley Beal, John Wall, and hopefully maybe a third quality player. Davis Bertans is pretty solid. They have solid players, but I mean a really quality player. Maybe one of those, like someone like a Danilo Gallinari, a guy who's a really good starter in the league. Not an all-star player, but a really good starter, like who can score the ball and maybe play defense. This team could definitely use that moving forward. And overall, I think the Washington Wizards, a lot of it's going to come down to John Wall and how well he recovers. But, as for this team, I don't feel like they're definitely not one of the worst teams moving forward. There's a lot of other teams I'm kind of worried for, especially like the Pistons, the Knicks. I don't know what the Hawks are doing, man. The Hawks, they have Trae Young, but they're still in a very questionable position. So for you Wizards fans, you guys should feel pretty, keep your heads up. And you definitely, because the future will get better. I promise you that. And with that being said, that will be the end of today's video. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. How you feel about the Washington Wizards moving forward. And I'm out.